Sup peeps, how's it going? Toofty here, and today we're dealing with scouts. A quote from the wiki: one of the main issues with the Demoman is the inability to defend himself at close quarters, with both his standard weapons resulting in damaging himself as well as his target. Now, seeing as scouts like to get up nice and close and personal, they can be real tricky to deal with as a demo and are possibly going to be your biggest threat. So I've collected a selection of clips where I've come face to face with a scout, took a look at these to see kind of what I was doing, and I put together a few pointers, so I hope this helps you guys. Let's jump straight in. So every combat situation needs you to predict to some extent, but with scouts you have to think much further ahead than normal, because of how quickly they move, and also with the Demoman you have the arm time of your weapon to deal with as well. So it's not just about where they're going to be in the next split second, it's more like where they're actually heading to, what direction they're running, what they might be doing in the next few moments. So it's worth at any given moment trying to be aware of popular pathways that are around you, where the scouts come from, where he might be heading, trying to get into their head so you can try and predict exactly where they're going to go and then be ready for them as they go in that direction. In this example here, I'm on upward and I'm getting a little bit harassed as I come out of spawn here. I chase this scout and I notice that he jumps over this balcony. I didn't get any damage onto him, so it's more than likely that he wants to come back and try and attack me. There's only one way for him to do that, and it's behind me on these stairs, so I'm going to turn around, pop a sticky down, wait for one moment and then detonate. At long range, you can get a decent amount of damage out onto a scout, whereas they can't really return that damage and get it back onto you, so it's an ideal situation for when dealing with scouts. When at long range, I tend to use the Quickiebomb Launcher, and I try to keep them at a distance where possible. The reason I use Stickies is because however good you are with the grenade launcher, you're just unlikely to hit them at a distance, and they're just moving so quickly, and you have to consider the actual time for that grenade to get to them as well. So at least with a sticky, it will attach itself to the environment near them, and then you can get some splash damage onto them. One way to kind of keep them at their distance is to actually get to places where they can't reach themselves, such as this roof on the gravel pit. The other benefit of Stickies is that if you miss them, you don't have to detonate straight away. So as the scout's running back and forth, you might be able to wait a few moments for them to actually run back over your explosives and then detonate and get some damage out onto them. You can actually start to build a kind of minefield around them by doing this, gradually restricting their movement with the more stickies you put down, and the more time goes on, the more likely they are to run over one of your traps. This second example on upward, I'm face to face with this scout. I start to put stickies down around me. Notice that I'm not shooting the stickies directly at him, but kind of to his side where he might be running. As I get more stickies down, he ends up making a mistake and running over one, and then I'm able to detonate and take him out. So at close range, both weapons can be really effective. It's kind of personal preference. I tend to decide what to use based on what I have equipped, how much ammo I have, and kind of the environment around me. In this first example here, it shows exactly why I find stickies to be so much more reliable than pipes in some situations. Here this scout's charging straight at me, and I'm just missing my shots because he's doing a really good job of dodging. I switch over to stickies, pop a couple down at my feet, and I'm able to take them out first time. So when up close and personal with a scout, the first thing I tend to do with my Quickiebomb Launcher is to put a bomb down directly at my feet, and then run back over it, and then detonate that as the scout chases me. If the scout tries to avoid that damage, you can then use it as kind of a barrier to keep the scout away. You can then sometimes kind of use that barrier to guide the rest of the combat, or you can start adding additional traps like we discussed before, where you're kind of creating this minefield for them to have to navigate. In this example here, we're in a really open space, which is where scouts are hardest to pin down. So I start off by popping a bunch of traps down. I noticed I'm being chased here by a scout. The first thing I do now is put a sticky between me and him. He's trying to avoid that, so he keeps his distance, so I'm able to then use that as a barrier as I try to get additional damage onto him. Notice how I kind of rotate with that, so it's always keeping that sticky in between me and him. I then gradually start putting additional stickies down and moving forward, so I'm able to take him out. So So your pipes can be really effective at close range, possibly more so if you're confident enough at using this weapon. As the scout has such a low HP, one pipe will get them super low and will likely make them retreat, and 2 pipes will pretty much guarantee the kill. Also, when they're close, they're much easier to hit. Watching for the double jump can kind of help you predict, as you know they won't be changing directions again after that. Often if they've just immediately changed directions, they're unlikely to change directions again, so you can then shoot the pipe just in front of them. I find that I often use a combination of my weapons, starting off with the Quickiebomb Launcher and then switching to grenades as they get closer. One thing you can do if you're really struggling to hit them with your pipes and you have plenty of health, depending on the environment, you can get right in their face and basically assure that pipe hits and tank any damage that comes onto you. But obviously you've got to be cautious when using this technique. Any other enemies around, it'll be really easy for them to finish you off, or you may end up just killing yourself too. One final tip for using pipes in general is basically to use narrow corridors and doorways to your advantage. It's a great way to make your pipes much more likely to hit. So in this example here, I have a feeling this scout's going to follow me through here. I put one sticky down, he gets a shot onto me, and I'm pretty confident I can get a pipe onto him because he's going to be in that little square space and not able to dodge too well. So I'm able to get a hit onto him and he's finished off. So obviously as a Demoman, traps will be really useful in taking out scouts as well. You can tend to bait scouts to follow you through a doorway or something where you can get a trap down or have a pipe at the ready like I mentioned earlier. This is a pretty cut and dry example here where I see this medic and scout. I want to avoid going out into this open space and having him take me on with his pocket, so I'm actually going to retreat back through this tunnel and put a trap down. He probably thinks I'm low on health and just full on retreating to get some health, but actually I'm just going to put a trap down and just wait a few seconds, and then fortunately he does end up following me and I'm able to take him out. Aside from your kind of regular trap, it's worthwhile just using kind of the occasional precautionary sticky at kind of very popular pathways in the map, and also especially in situations where you have to kind of wait around, such as on control points. It's worth making sure you're prepared for incoming enemies, having stickies around you, and maybe even having a sticky kind of pretty much where you're standing, so if anyone does charge right at you, you can move back and then detonate that. So on this example here, I'm on Powerhouse on the control point, and I know this game has a couple of scouts in, so I'm really cautious here. I'm putting a few stickies around and one directly at my feet, so if one does come along, I can take them out pretty easily. This guy charges right at me, and it's no problem just to finish him off. So as I said before, usually you do find yourself running back away from scouts and putting stickies down at your feet, but sometimes it's worth moving in more unexpected ways, either sidestepping or actually moving towards them just to kind of surprise them a little bit. In this second example on Powerhouse, a scout's chasing me down onto the point. He's probably expecting me to actually backpedal now and move away from him, but instead I'm going to do this kind of little sidestep, putting a sticky down at my feet. And as he comes back to chase me, that sticky's probably finished arming itself and I can now detonate it and do some damage onto him. And again, I used this actually twice in a row, so he's not expecting me to change directions again. I actually sidestep and go towards him again, moving into him, putting a sticky down and finishing him off pretty neatly. Sometimes I've found that even blocking a scout can be useful. Obviously it's not something you'll see very often and it's pretty risky, but a couple of times I found it useful to physically block a scout, basically to help make sure you can get that damage onto them without them moving and dodging your shots. Maybe you're low on ammo and they're in your face, or you've got your melee weapon out. You can actually just sort of wedge them just for a second somewhere and then do some damage, tank any damage to yourself, and it might help you take them out. But it's not something I kind of recommend. I've just noticed that once or twice it's been useful to do. Obviously, if you're still struggling with taking out scouts, the Quickiebomb Launcher can be really useful. It just means that arm time's ever so slightly smaller, so you can detonate quicker and you don't have to predict quite as far in advance as to where they're going. It's definitely worth trying out. It's a weapon I enjoyed trying, but it hasn't fully replaced my Quickiebomb Launcher just yet. If there's any techniques you use that I haven't mentioned, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching this episode. I'll see you mofos in the next one.